Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the latest on a suspect wanted for murder out of Calhoun County. We have updates on that stolen tabernacle from a Catholic church in El Campo. And in San Antonio, 2 suspects arrested in connection with a kidnapping.
Well, it was another scorcher across Texas. As you can see, we got up to 103 this afternoon, yet the rest of the state is up to almost 110. So that's part of our energy problem. Everybody's trying to stay cool. We'll also have the latest on Hurricane Lee. All that coming up in a moment.
Plus, the historic Luther Hotel in Palacios avoids demolition. You're watching 25 News Now at 5.
This is breaking news from 25 News Now.
We start with breaking news around 3:30 today. Victoria police responded to the 7600 block of North Navarro Street for a shooting. 25 News Now anchor Karina Garcia is live there with more. Karina?
That's right, Don. Today at exactly 3:23 p.m., the Victoria Police Department responded right here, specifically in the 7600 block of North Navarro, in response to an unknown call. What we know now is that a 3-year-old child has been taken to hospital in critical condition. Now, like I said, we are working closely with the Victoria Police Department, who tell us that this happened in an SUV vehicle driving on Navarro. They're also telling us that the shooting does appear to be accidental. For now, there is no threat to the public, nor have there been any arrest or charges. Like I said earlier, we are working closely with the Victoria Police Department, and we're going to provide updates as they become available. For now, I'm Karina Garcia reporting live in Victoria, KVUTV 25 News Now.
Karina, thank you. Monday around 6 o'clock a.m., a masked gunman went into the Smitty's Texaco located in Inez on FM 444. Authorities say the robber took the cash register drawers and took off. Deputies caught up with a stolen vehicle. A short time later, the vehicle was burned. Wednesday, authorities carried out a search warrant in the 3300 block of East Red River Street. They arrested 32-year-old Ryan Lynn Hargis of Port Lavaca and 31-year-old Irena Ruiz of Victoria. They're charged with aggravated robbery, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and possession of a controlled substance. The Calhoun County Sheriff's Office and Matagorda County are involved with a wanted suspect in Calhoun County that was taken into custody by Bay City Police Wednesday night. 62-year-old Michael David Elliott wanted for a parole violation for murder, along with several other warrants in Calhoun County. Early Monday morning, someone stole the tabernacle at St. Robert's Catholic Church in El Campo. It was removed from the front altar underneath the church's main cross by at least 2 suspects who fled in a black SUV. Police told the El Campo Leader News it would have taken more than one person to carry it and that the thieves would have needed tools to remove the tabernacle. Anyone with information can call 979-543-8477. Now let's take a first look at your First Warn Storm Team forecast. Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez joins us now with a look at what's going on outside. And Mac, all I'm seeing when I look outside are heat waves.
Yeah, pretty much it. That's the story. But you know what? It's getting rather intense so late in the season, and unbelievable. I mean, it seemed like an okay day, but we popped up to 103 this afternoon. Same thing in Wharton, 102 in Beeville, and 104 in the Gonzales areas. Observed highs around the state. You can see the whole state is really under the dome and just dealing with this triple-digit stuff. That's one of the reasons we're, using a lot of energy right now to try and stay cool. But I do have an optimistic word for next week. We'll have all that coming up in a moment. Don?
Mac, thank you. It's been determined the 3-year-old girl who died on a migrant bus from Texas to Chicago last month had a bacterial infection and aspiration pneumonia. She also tested positive for viruses in her digestive and respiratory systems. The Marion County official in Illinois conducting the investigation says those illnesses and the fact that she was underweight led to the death of Yushmari Alejandra Barbosa Gonzalez. The child was given electrolytes on the bus, but eventually became unresponsive. The search for a convicted killer who's been on the run since escaping from a Pennsylvania prison last Thursday continues. Authorities now releasing the video that shows the moment he escaped.
The search for convicted killer Danilo Cavalcante now in its 8th day.
Cavalcante is considered extremely dangerous, and there is a reward of up to $20,000 offered for information leading to the capture of Cavalcante.
Stunning security video capturing his escape as he scales the wall sideways in seconds, managing to pass through razor wire before making it to the roof and running off. Authorities saying they had installed that razor wire after a similar escape back in May and are now vowing to make more security changes. Prison officials say a tower guard who was supposed to be watching the inmates never saw Cavalcante's escape. That guard now on administrative leave. The convicted murderer has been spotted several times since his escape, including on these trail camera images. Authorities say they believe he's still in their search perimeter.
Earlier today, we had a possible sighting of Cavalcante by a person in the vicinity of Longwood Gardens. A search of that area has been underway for the past few hours and continues at this time.
The 34-year-old was sentenced in August to life in prison for the murder of his girlfriend, killing her in front of her children. He was awaiting transfer to a state prison when he escaped. Residents in the area are being advised to keep their homes and vehicles locked.
I think that for as long as he's at large and staying in this general area, people will have a higher level of anxiety.
The state attorney general has taken over the investigation into how the escape occurred, and ABC News has learned this all happened one day after the acting warden stepped into the job. Rena Broy, ABC News, New York.
A major win for those advocating to save the Luther, an historic hotel in Palacios that was up for demolition. After a months-long legal battle, the Ed Rochelle Foundation released the Luther Hotel from its contract. The foundation had offered $1.2 million to purchase the property with plans to demolish the hotel. Those involved say this is a huge win for the community of Palacios.
Great news. It's very different from what it was last week. It's not the end. We still have work to do. We still have to, try and buy the property. Contract that was between the Ed Rochelle Foundation and the estate has said that if the hotel was not demolished by August 31st, Foundation had the right to get their earnest money back and walk away from the deal.
The Luther Hotel is out of the Ed Rochelle Foundation's contract. Nick Herman, an interested buyer with ties to Palacios, has offered $1.65 million to purchase the property with plans to restore and ultimately save the Luther. The San Antonio Police Department has arrested 2 people and is looking for a third in connection with the kidnapping of a couple from their Southwest Side home on Wednesday. KSAT reports 29-year-old Xavier Martinez and 40-year-old Felipe Valdez were arrested on a charge of aggravated kidnapping. According to police, a man and a woman in their late 30s were taken against their will by 2 men with guns who barged into their home. The man and woman are safe and reunited with their family, according to San Antonio Police. The impeachment trial proceedings for Ken Paxton started Tuesday. 25 News Now Sunrise anchor Karina has the highlights from Texas Tribune Capitol reporter Renzo Downey.
As the impeachment trial continues for suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, Renzo Downey, a Capitol reporter with the Texas Tribune, has been at the trial all week. Renzo, what has it been like so far?
So the trial got started on Tuesday, and since then we've started hearing from some of the key witnesses. First off, we heard from Jeff Mateer, who is the former first assistant attorney general. This is the second in command, Ken Paxton's top guy for a while. And he testified about how he was deeply concerned about what was going on in the Attorney General's office, that Ken Paxton's actions were seemingly illegal, that he was concerned that maybe he'd been blackmailed, and that he then went to the FBI with his concerns. And Paxton's attorneys, they were trying to make it seem like he had jumped to assumptions about what the Attorney General was doing. They tried to possibly bring up, this connection that, there were other powers trying to get rid of Ken Paxton, that there was a coup going on. That word was used during the trial yesterday. And they also started getting into how the Attorney General's office was helping Nate Paul, who is a donor of Ken Paxton, a Austin-based real estate investor. And Nate Paul is pretty central to this trial. So, hearing testimony about how Nate Paul was, how the Attorney General's office is trying to benefit Nate Paul, that's pretty key to what the House impeachment managers, and those are the House members who are leading the prosecution, if you want to call it that. That's pretty central to their argument.
I believe Nate Paul also has some Victoria roots here. We'll have to look further into that. And speaking of Victoria connections with this trial, our own State Senator Lois Cloakhorst, how did she vote on this trial?
Yeah, so in the first phase of this trial, there were the pretrial motions. And, this is a little different than a normal courtroom where you're basically having the jury decide whether the case should be dismissed early on. You had Ken Paxton's attorneys filing multiple motions ahead of trial, trying to dismiss the individual articles of impeachment. And so then it was up to the senators, who are the jury in this case, to decide by just a simple majority vote whether they should dismiss these charges. And State Senator Lois Cloakhorst, she was one of the, I believe, 6 senators who consistently voted on Ken Paxton's side. She was consistently voting to dismiss the articles of impeachment, and consistently voting in favor of his, other various motions along the way. So that's a pretty good indication of where she stands. There is a gag order over the trial, so that means that reporters can't ask her. She can't speak freely about the trial and her thoughts. So really, we're just having a look at these votes to see where senators' minds are at.
And Ken Paxton himself, we're doing this interview Thursday morning, so this may change later today. But Ken Paxton himself, he has not attended his own trial. Is this correct?
Well, he was there for the very start of it. During these pretrial motion votes that took up the majority of day one being Tuesday, and he then after that he pleaded not guilty to the charges, and after that they took a break, and he was gone after that, and he wasn't there yesterday.
So far, or I guess since the first day.
Yeah, so since the first day, he has not been there, and don't expect him to be there.
And his lawyers are already asking for several millions of dollars in a settlement. Is that right?
Yeah, so the settlement is basically what kicked everything off. In a settlement with the whistleblowers, some of whom are going to be testifying. We started hearing the first bit of testimony from the whistleblowers yesterday. And so that's the settlement that ended up going to the legislature. The Attorney General had to ask the legislature to pay for the settlement, and the legislature started looking into it. The House started looking into it and decided that there had been wrongdoing, and that's how we ended up with Attorney General Ken Paxton being impeached.
Well, Renzo, thank you so much for your coverage of this trial, the Texas Tribune for their coverage. We'll keep checking in with you throughout this process. Thank you so much, Renzo.
Thank you.
All right, back to y'all at the desk.
Thank you. And you can watch the Ken Paxton impeachment trial live on our website, crossroadstoday.com. Here's your viewer poll today. Scan the QR code on your screen to vote now. Here's the question. Are you planning on attending the Keep Victoria Beautiful event this Saturday? Yes or no? We want to hear from you. We'll show you what you and your neighbors are saying on 25 News now at 6. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell so you can see Crossroads Today on YouTube. Stay with us straight ahead on 25 News now at 5. A vigil in Fort Worth held for the TCU student killed last week. Also ahead in health news, Narcan becomes available over the counter. Students and faculty at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth held a vigil Wednesday in honor of a student who was killed in a random act of violence. Hundreds gathered outside TCU's Frog Fountain for the vigil. The Office of Religious and Spiritual Life organized the event so fellow students and Wes Smith's family could join together to celebrate his life. Smith, a 21-year-old junior, was killed outside a Fort Worth bar Friday after being approached randomly by suspect Matthew Purdy. The FDA approved the sale of Narcan over-the-counter back in March. It's used to reverse an opioid overdose, and it's now appearing on both online and retail shelves.
There have been more than 1 million drug overdose deaths in the U.S. since 1999.
The chances are somebody you know and love does drugs.
The widespread use of synthetic opioids exacerbating the crisis.
You really need every tool that's available right now.
One key tool, the Narcan branded naloxone nasal spray, is now available over the counter following approval by the FDA earlier this year.
Narcan, and I have some here, is a medication that is just so easily sprayed up the nose and can reverse an opioid overdose within minutes.
Dr. Scott Hadland says this can be the new avenue for families of young adults struggling with addiction.
We are actually at a point in the crisis where each week the equivalent to a high school classroom of teenagers dies from overdoses. And most of those overdoses are actually happening in people's homes. So there's the potential for a parent or other loved one to be able to respond.
But at a suggested retail price of $44.99 for 2 doses, some advocates worry the price point is too high. However, Emergent Biosolutions, Narcan's manufacturer, says the company is lowering the cost for community groups, first responders, as well as state and local governments, while some insurance and state Medicaid programs also cover the full cost of the life-saving medication. Though not a solution to the opioid epidemic, advocates are hopeful this is a big step in the right direction.
The more that we can do to normalize rescuing people who have experienced an overdose, the more we're going to help this crisis.
If it felt like this summer was warmer than usual, you're not alone. Research group Climate Central says almost no one was able to escape the dangerous heat fueled by climate change. Between June and August, 98% of the global population 2 times more likely to experience high temperatures because of climate change. That's according to the CNN report. And that includes Texas.
No doubt about it. You know it, you felt it, you lived through it. Right now it's 100 degrees. It really snuck up on us. It looked like it was going to be a fairly average day, but late in the afternoon we popped up to 103 degrees. That was our high temperature, not a record, but certainly warm enough. Coming up, we'll be talking about the good news that I have for you for next week and the bad news that I have for you on Hurricane Lee. All that coming up in a moment. Well, the weather hasn't changed much. We have staying in the triple digits, and as of today, we have now had 56 days for the year of 2023. So that puts us in second place. But yeah, that 58, we're probably going to blow through that as well. So yeah, it was the second warmest summer on record yet, but that will probably be changing. Lots of sun today, a few clouds. Looked good early this morning. Thought, okay, come on, let's build up something, but didn't quite happen, and it's just hot and very steamy as the humidities have also risen. So high pressure is the problem. Now that pressure is going to be moving over the weekend, and so with a little luck, it'll move out to California and stay out there for a couple of days. But yeah, it was a hot one. 100 in Port Lavaca, 95 in down in Rockport, 102 in Beeville. Now, across the state, our other concern is, everybody's trying to cool down. There's no doubt about it. Temperatures 108, 109 throughout much of Texas. Everybody in the triple digits. So, it's a big strain on our energy system. And so let's just say don't waste energy. Let's just use what we need to try and stay cool. These are your forecast highs for tomorrow. Still in the triple digits, 105 San Antonio, Austin 107, 107 up in the Dallas area as well. So let's just remember that the summer can't last forever. Or can it? There's a big question right there. There's Victoria County under the heat advisory, and of course, red flag warnings for high fire danger for much of the rest of the north central part of the state. And in addition to that, right here in the gray and the gray and the gray, that's air pollution warnings. It's called an ozone action day. That means that the ozone is so high that they want people not to drive, not to be outside. And of course, they should actually ask industry to slow down or not produce as much in emissions as necessary. Well, as of this morning, we have a new hurricane. We're up to Margot, or Margot, I don't know. That's what we've got so far. But Lee is the one that we're going to have to watch very carefully. Now, Lee is up here. It is now at Category 4. That's 130 mile an hour winds right there. It's not close to any land right now. That's the good news, but you could look at the intensity here. It's going to go up to a 5 by tomorrow and then stay as a 4 and a 4 and a 4, very close to the Bahamas. Now, the big question is, where will it make the turn? So all the computer models you can see here are in very tight agreement that it's going to go northwest, 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 and then right about here, there's a divergence, is what we call it. But the divergence is going to make, shall we say, a big game out of this, because if it turns early, it'll stay out in the Atlantic and we'll get a break, okay? If it stays on its current path, majority of the models have it not hitting the Carolinas, but skirting and then sort of slamming into the Northeast. I'm talking New England, Long Island, places like that will get maybe not the center of the storm, but hurricane conditions. Third scenario, which would be the worst, would be that it actually moves onshore. So let's just say that the center is going to be very, very careful. That path, we're going to have to watch it for an entire week. 98 tomorrow in Port Lavaca. For those of you in Cuero, still looking at the triple digits, 105. But look at this. Beginning on the weekend, we start picking up enough instability for a few little afternoon showers. And yeah, by middle of next week, we're looking at the lower 90s. That's pretty exciting considering what we've been through. That's your 7-day forecast. We do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. Here's Don.
Mac, thank you. And coming up next on 25 News Now at 5, we'll take a look at your stocks. Plus, the Auto Workers Union calls the latest offer from GM insulting. Taking a look at your stocks, the Dow adding 57 points, the S&P 500 losing 14 points, the Nasdaq off 123 points. Oil down 67 cents, closing at $86.87 a barrel. The United Auto Workers Union furious at General Motors, calling its latest wage offer insulting. GM offered its workers a 10% raise. That's a fraction of the 40% the UAW is asking for. Now auto workers threatening to walk off the job next week if a deal is not reached. Stay with us. We'll take one last look at your forecast. Plus, grab your favorite book, Crossroads. Tomorrow is Literacy Day. And now here's a look at what's coming up on World News Tonight, right after 25 News Now at 5.
Coming up tonight, breaking news, this hurricane rapidly intensifying, now a Category 4, expected to be a Cat 5 by tonight. The new track right here. Also, the well-known actor sentenced to 30 years to life for rape. And the emergency landing, the passenger plane, the bird strike, and the engine going down. Next.
Friday marks International Literacy Day. Every September 8th, groups around the world focus on the importance of learning to read and write. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization started the observation in 1967. To honor International Literacy Day, they suggest volunteering to read to children at your local library or help someone struggling to learn how to read or write. And if you've been reading the thermometer lately, then you have to keep looking up and up and up. It keeps going up.
Yeah. Good thing we don't have 3 digits up there. If we had 4, oh my gosh, this would be horrible. Anyway, folks, if you're reading the thermometer tomorrow, we're looking at another scorcher with 102, then 101. Certainly by Sunday, Monday, we should start feeling a different kind of atmosphere. High pressure is moving to the west. We're looking at more unstable air. That should give us some afternoon showers, and then slowly but surely, you'll actually see the temperature drop into the mid-90s. Now, will that be forever? Maybe not, but at least it'll be a nice break for next week. And obviously, we'll be having the latest for you coming up tonight at 10 on the Hurricane Lee, which is out in the Atlantic.
And we're getting close to the end of summer, like, 21st. It's not that far away.
Not that far away.
But officially.
Some of our hottest temperatures have been in September.
Yes. Thanks for reminding us.
Yeah,
Mac, thank you, and thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6. World News Tonight with David Muir is up next.